Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast, hosted by Integrated AI Services. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode dives into how AI is reshaping brand strategy, creative systems, and the way companies communicate their value. Our guest is Marc Rust, founder of Consequently Creative, a studio known for building intentional, insight-driven brand experiences that blend strategy, design, and storytelling. Marc, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me your story. How did you start doing what you're doing now?
So I come from a background of being creative. Obviously, some of my favorite jobs were being an art director, a creative director for an agency. That's the typical background that I've tried to follow and I've followed. And then more recently, about 5 years ago, I started Consequently Creative, my own shop. We're a branding agency and we focus on messaging and helping businesses grow. And we are in the belief that businesses are always in a period of transformation. So we really help with that. We nurture that and we build the foundation that people need in order to step forward. The way I got into it is pretty interesting. I've always been fascinated with the power of a message and how messaging really helps a company or a product exist, right?
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Paris, France. I moved there when I was 9 years old. And I didn't speak French or anything. And I had, I went to bilingual schools and stuff, but learning the language was really tough. And there was one thing that really, really helped, and it was watching commercials on TV. My mother would be watching, shows, and when commercials would come on, I would run into the room and sit in front of the TV and watch commercials. Because commercials, no matter what the language is, you can kind of get the gist of it and you can kind of understand it. And that really helped me not only learn French, but it also helped me fall in love with the power of a message, that magic, right? You have to combine a headline, imagery, video, music, a jingle, all this stuff to create something you can't ignore.
Yes, absolutely. So, a completely off-topic question, but are you a fan of the show Emily in Paris, being marketing and having been spent time in Paris?
It's okay. It makes me cringe at moments because it's not absolutely the experience that I went through. There were some times where she walks down one street and then she keeps on walking, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not even in the same neighborhood. But yeah, anything that promotes France and shows that it's an awesome place, I'm okay with.
Yeah, so I went to Paris early in September and had the most wonderful, magical trip. It was fantastic for a week and came back, and it was wonderful watching Emily in Paris and going, we stood there and we walked down that street and it was fantastic. We loved it. But that's a complete digression.
No, it's fine.
So, so tell me again, when did you start your Consequently Creative?
In 2020.
Okay, so that was really the height of COVID. What was the decision to start your own agency then when everyone thought the world was falling apart?
Well, like any entrepreneur who started their company, they all say, I should have done this so much earlier. I should have done it so much earlier. It was just I was a victim of circumstances. It was after a layoff. It felt like the right thing to do. I also had somebody reach out to me who needed some freelance help, and that became bigger and bigger. We also found our first pitched client very quickly after that. So it kind of snowballed from there, and it just made sense.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations and good for you. Yeah, I guess starting your own company is like investing for retirement. The best time was 30 years ago. The second best time is today, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, now to get back onto the theme of the podcast,
Okay.
I've managed to completely get us off of, so apologies for that. So, are you using any AI tools in your firm right now, either for admin work or for the creative process and creative work?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. AI has become this really interesting sounding board for me in the sense that you have an idea and you can use AI to just validate something, expand on that idea, etc. Now, one thing I want to be absolutely clear about, I'm a creative, and I don't think that you can achieve anything remarkable if you start from a blank slate, right? What I mean by that is that you need to have
Hmm,
some ideas. You need to say, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm thinking about this style. May it be written, may it be something visual. I don't think there is an artist out there who has started a painting from a blank canvas, right? That would be a boring painting that doesn't have any inspiration. You need to start with some ideas. So you need to brainstorm, you need to have a visual vision in your mind.
gotcha.
From that vision, start coming up with some concepts, then bounce those concepts off of things. Where I think people are using AI in a very naive way is to expect AI to come up with the ideas, starting with a total blank canvas. That's not a good way to approach anything.
Interesting. So how do you use it then? Do you just go into ChatGPT and say, give me 5 ideas for this?
Yeah, I'll start with a theme. I'll start with a problem or a particular, and I'll craft it from there. I'll ask for a particular angle, and then I'll refine it even more until I get something that's sharp enough for my needs. And
Okay.
work it from there. And then also, of course, after that, you reread it. Let's say it's an article, you reread it and you change things around and put your own spin into it.
Okay. So so you use AI to help you with the brainstorming, and then you take the sort of the final brainstorm idea and do your creative magic with that. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
When it comes to written things. Now, when it
Mhm.
comes to more creative, like I've dabbled in image creation, there have been moments that have been very successful where you take an image and you want to have it, you're describing a theme or a scene, and AI is okay with that. Although, though the images that I get generated from AI look very AI generated, so that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's very of a it has this synthetic feel and style to it that I have a hard time working with. But there's different levels of AIs. Really sure how to pinpoint how I use visual things with AI, but I think that we've come really, really far when it comes to expanding on imagery that already exists. So, for example, and I don't know if you know this, if you're in Photoshop, you can use AI to generate
Mhm.
more of a scene. So, if I have an image that is a square and I need that image to be a rectangle, it can generate a scene on each side of the image, and in that case, that's usually very, very good. And you have to do very minimal manipulations from there.
Interesting. No, I've never actually tried that in Photoshop, but it seems that starting off with an image and then asking the AI to simply add on to it, it seems like that would give you a better result than asking it to create from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, honestly, Peter, sometimes it's like spot on. Like, let's say I have something really stupid. Like, I have the image of a bio photo of an executive, and I need to put that on a page, but it's cropped too square around his face, and I need more of his body and his suit and tie and stuff like that. AI is great sometimes at creating a suit and tie, and it just looks fantastic, and they'll put a little pocket or something I wasn't expecting there. Other times, it's absolutely hilarious. Like, it either when it's off the mark with images, it is way off the mark, and it is really funny. Like, it will be like a pink suit, and it was like, I didn't ask for colors to be changed or anything. So
Yeah.
that's really hilarious when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've had some funny ones too, working with trying to get images, and some frustrating ones where it's 95% what you're looking for, and you say take that exact picture and change this one detail, and you get a completely new,
Oh,
100%
yes.
new photo. And you're like, I don't get it. I said, use that exact picture. I'm still working on that prompt.
That's like working with somebody that you would want to fire immediately.
Yep. So I'm curious then, where was your initial AI experiment for your business? What was that initial? Do you remember how you first used it as a use case or as a trial?
Like my first introduction to AI,
Or like the first project or first thing you did with it in your business? Was it kind of
it was mainly just dabbling in it for the business, like doing content creation, blog creation,
Mhm,
helping is really good at analyzing around specific verbiage. So, for example, we wanted AI to help us with our SEO, creating content around keywords. And in our case, we were trying to create content around the keyword private equity branding, which is one of our areas of focus for the agency. And I created a whole series, 12 articles that I dropped every 2 weeks. And it really helped us position. And right now we're number one for that keyword. I do attribute that to AI. Some of it was a lot of it was automatic. A lot of it was also looking into it and making sure that everything was good. But AI is really good for that type of stuff.
yeah. Yeah, one of the things I've heard from other guests is using AI to ask why their brand or their client's brand was not showing up in top of page. What was wrong with the SEO or what was wrong with the AEO, and having it tell them like these are the things you need to change, and you're like, oh, okay. So which is another nice use case for it.
Absolutely. And it is an area of optimization that businesses should not ignore in the sense that AI is very specific. It is creating content that allows other AI engines to digest it. And this is
Hmm.
so important because it positions your offering on a level that you weren't thinking about before. Recently, towards the end of the summer, we got a new client, and it was this new playground company. We're having a blast with them. And when you get a new client, you get really excited. You start the work, and then a few weeks go by, and you're like, "Well, wait a minute. Maybe I can now ask, how did you find us?" And this particular client found us through ChatGPT by just asking, "Give me a list of the top 3 branding agencies for private equity," and we showed up.
So that's fantastic. Y'all are doing something right.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. But the message I'm trying to convey there is like, don't ignore this stuff. If you're in the business of getting new clients, then you need to have a presence around this new activity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good for you.
Yeah, it's absolutely
So onto the actual, work that you do for your clients. How do you manage the, working with AI, but also keeping the human driven storytelling and the emotions, as really the end part of your work, and not having, AI actually, sort of taking that over.
sure. Yeah, that's something that's obviously very very important to us because we're a creative agency. Being creative is not a word that I'm throwing around lightly. My definition of that is by being original, being unique.
Mhm.
So having something that is unique to that particular client, original for that client to stand out in the marketplace and have a corner of a market that they can claim as their own, right? The thing with AI is that there's something dangerous there because it tastes delicious, okay? And let me expand on that. It tastes delicious in the way that sugar tastes delicious, right? Sugar is something that you add it to anything and it makes it taste better, right? Is it good for you? Probably not in its pure form. It isn't good for you. Same thing with AI. But I'm talking about sugar there. But now, and if I can just stay with food for a second, there's ultra
Mhm.
processed food like chips, Pringles, Doritos, right? Those foods are also created in a lab and very ultra processed. And I would argue that one of the motives of that food is to make it so good so you don't want to stop eating, right?
Hmm.
We're seeing a lot of that with content and with AI where we're getting this ultra processed content. And maybe I'm going a little bit far here because it's not just AI. I think it's a combination of three things: algorithms, AI, and social media is creating this ultra processed, almost junk food content, right? Where the motive, just like the food doesn't want you to stop eating, the motive of that particular content is that it doesn't want you to stop engaging, right?
Right.
That could be doom scrolling or stuff like that. So there is definitely a risk around this ultra processed stuff that is effective from an algorithm point of view, but it isn't effective from a human interest point of view necessarily. So I hope that's making sense. But
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
definitely a slippery slope where if you rely on AI too much, you're starting to produce something that's very plastic and does not actually have true benefit. So so that mix is really important, and being aware of that is very important. To absolutely answer your question about how do we use it for our clients, we really watch out. We don't want to create content that is full AI generated, because we can fall into something that feels very, very automatic.
Yeah. Absolutely. So looking at AI and maybe now talking about automation as well. So from a non-creative part of your business, are you finding that, AI and or automation is helping with the back end to maybe enable you to take on more clients because you're more efficient in doing some of your back end work? Um, it's can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, okay, it hasn't helped us bring on more clients per se. It has helped us do more outreach in a way where we can use AI for email outreach, where, for example, you might reach out to a company and you ask the AI to go to their website, find out something about some recent news, maybe a recent acquisition, craft an email, congratulate them on that acquisition, right? And, make reference to something in a certain way. AI does that in a very, very good way. So that's been very, very effective. But then also internally, AI, when it comes to developing things, and, a lot of what we do is develop websites.
Mhm.
The troubleshooting aspect of developing websites is being reduced dramatically because of AI. So, small example, let's say you're working on a web page and you've got a link and you want to change the color of that link and have it behave in a certain way. Yeah, you can do it and work on it and put the code in and type that code in and check as you're going, as developers do, and see what the results are, and refine it as you go. Or you could just go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, here's the code I have. Here's what I'm trying to do. Give me the code for it." That is allowing you to jump 5 steps.
Mhm.
So from that point of view, it's fantastic.
Nice. Okay. Um, it so when and I don't know if you've if your team has if you've hired new people or whatever, but if you were to look into hiring new people at this point, would you look in more for people who are highly technical and really knew the tools, or would you look for people who are really creative and just assume that the tools are easy enough to use that they can learn the tools and so how do you think you would
Nope.
approach that?
100% do the latter. I'm still looking for somebody creative, because it's not about the tool. It's about how you use it. It's about how you think, right? So when I'm hiring somebody, I'm far more interested in somebody, first off, who's interesting, right? Because we want to work with interesting people. Somebody who has the mindset to be able to visualize things before they appear. So,
Uh,
the engineering side of music, if somebody's a musician, that always appeals to me, because musicians have a way of saying, "Oh, I can hear that. I can imagine that. Let me try to figure that out." That whole aspect of tinkering with things, figuring things out, is what makes people really, really good at their jobs. That they happen to understand how to use AI, that's a benefit, but that's not the leading aspect. And I think
Mhm.
that that's a lot of that's the big problem with how people, in my opinion, are interpreting AI, is that they tend to put AI first. They're putting the technology first. When I think, in fact, the technology should come last. What should come first is who you are, how you relate to things, what's important to you, what your passion is, and then what technologies do you use? Because for a really good developer or a good engineer, they can learn any technology, right?
Mhm. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Um, well, I think that's probably a good place to start wrapping up. But before we actually finish this podcast and this great discussion, what do you want people who might hire you to know about you and your firm?
Well, I really want them to know that creative is not logos, and that's not what we do. It's really deeper than that. It's how do you use a message to bring a product or a company to life, to having this existence, right? I feel that this is something that is so overlooked by companies where, oh, yeah, we can just find a logo, whatever. Yeah, I'll come up with a few headlines for you, or I'll ask ChatGPT to come up with some headlines for my company. That really is not enough to differentiate yourself and be unique. You need to dig deeper. It takes talent and it takes skill and
Mhm.
time to ultimately find that perfect message. So many times, we have clients reach out to us and say, "Hey, we really need to switch gears. Sales are going down, help us out. Take a look at our website." And we go to their website and the headline on their homepage doesn't mean anything. It means something to them and it might be crafty, it might be clever, but it
Mhm.
doesn't communicate value. Tell me why I should engage with you. Tell me why I should care, right? Speak my language, so those are things that can't be overlooked, and those are things that we do. And if you take some time to do that, it pays for itself. It helps you grow your business and have a real presence that you deserve.
Fantastic. That sounds like a great way to run your company, Mark.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, maybe we'll touch base again in 6 months or a year and see how things are going with you.
Whenever you like, Peter. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's really been great talking to you. It's just so much fun to talk to somebody who gets it, right? And
Mhm.
who's able to really understand the space that we're in and the value of all of this.
Well, that's a huge compliment, and I absolutely appreciate it. And we'll, we'll absolutely talk again sometime. So,
Anytime.
thanks for this fantastic discussion.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye, Peter.